going to be shooting black and white because the weather's pretty inconsistent and I want to create a consistent body of work. So over these last few days I've been doing a lot of reading, in particular street photography books. As you can probably tell, that audio became completely unusable, but what I was trying to say is that my photography is very much influenced by what I see as like the modern era, where it's all very kind of compositionally focused. It's very Instagram heavy because that's where I consume most of my photography. But there's a lot to be said from the old boys, and so I've recently picked up a bunch of different books on street photography, on just a lot of the old heads, the people that have been doing this for years, and they seem to have a knack about telling a story. And you've got the kind of classic style of the Henri Cartier-Bresson, where he is talking about the decisive moment. You need to wait and you need to read the scene and then the perfect moment will come out. But there's also the other sort of style where you're not necessarily getting in people's faces. I don't want to be doing that. But you're just moving about, and as you see interesting things, you're just capturing it. And it's a different way to tell a story in your imagery. And I think that if you're trying to progress your photography, you want to be doing a mix of this compositionally strong style, whilst also this real focus on storytelling. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we can tell stories. And I've started to formulate the idea that there's two ways in which you can create a story whilst focusing on story rather than the compositional side of things. So within creating a story, you've got capturing a moment. Something is happening and you are capturing it. It could be that two interesting people walk past each other and they have some sort of interaction. It could be a very specific moment. It could be a very specific emotion that someone's sharing. Or you can do what I like to think of as more creating your own narrative. And so by putting a border around an image, you are then telling the viewer, I, the photographer, have deliberately placed this item and this item or subject in the frame. And therefore you start thinking, oh, well, because the photographer has put this in the frame, therefore I should start comparing and contrasting what the photographer put in the frame. And so the goal in this video was to wander around and to start pushing myself. I would still focus on the compositionally strong sort of stuff because that's where I come from, or that's the kind of thing that I'm used to shooting. But I wanted to start really thinking about the story. How else could I, get people's emotions, get people's faces, get something that was a little bit more meaningful, perhaps. So let's get back into it. I'm not entirely sure how this is happening, but every composition that I find, and I think, I wish someone would come there, people seem to be coming there. It's really, really weird, and I mean, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm not complaining at all. But I'll just be like, let's say I'm standing here, and I'm like, I'd love someone to be where those pigeons are. Within 30 seconds, someone is where those pigeons are. And it's really weird, because it feels almost like I'm on the Truman Show or something, where they're reading my mind and they know what I'm thinking, and the simulation is placing subjects where I want them to be. So that is quite a surreal feeling, but I am not complaining. It is hopefully leading to some beautiful photos. So let's keep going. It has been a really big coffee day, so shout out to Reyes and Marissa for fueling the caffeine addiction. So thank you very much. Something that shooting this style of photography is making me realise is that you have to move quickly and decisively and just take the shot. And Match to it makes a really good point. Is that if you think there could be a photo, just take it and then move and try and improve it. There's nothing worse than trying to shoot something, getting close and be like, oh, I could get the perfect shot, and then they move. So take the shot, move quick, roll with it. editing JP again. Window again was awful. So what I was trying to say is that you cannot get precious about the process. You have got to put in the time and the effort to get better at telling a story, about really working at seeing the world differently. When I was recording this clip, I was mentioning how I was starting to count things, seeing how people interacted with each other, how people were touching each other, how people were interacting with other people, and being able to really start to read what was actually happening rather than my experience of what was happening. I wanted to see, or try to see, as objectively as possible, because that's what the camera sees. We walk around the world and around life kind of projecting our own biases on existence, right? But a camera can't see that. The camera can't capture that. And so we have to try and see like our camera. And this is a very taxing thing for us to do when we are just starting out doing it, because, well, for a bunch of different reasons, but mainly because we are thinking about a million different things at once. And the pros who've been doing this for years and years and years, the ones that are taking these absolute bangers, they almost go into autopilot because they've been doing this so long, because they've been reading scenes for forever and ever. They almost go into autopilot. Their thought process has become unconscious. And as photographers that are trying to break into that skill set, that kind of what I see as the high tier photography skills, it takes time, it takes effort. And at the end of the day, the goal for us as photographers, we want to get into that flow state where we are just so in the zone that nothing else matters, and we are literally one with our camera. And that is the state that we want to get to. And it takes time, it takes effort, and it's quite insulting, really. I know that from my experience, I used to be like, yo, I want to take these bangers. How comes this fucking old guy can take these photos and I'm nowhere near that? It is so insulting to think that me, having been into cameras and photography for a few years, I should be able to take those amazing, incredible photos. So it just takes time, effort and iterations. And the more we can do this, the more we can think about this, the more we can actively think about this, the more we're then able to pass that thought into our unconscious, subconscious, to hopefully read the scene a bit better. Patience is a virtue. Something that I've been thinking about is that there is a huge difference between being critical of your photos and being negative towards your photos. And I think that being critical is an absolutely vital part in becoming a better photographer, because you need to analyse and continuously think, okay, how could I improve this photo? What should I have done? What could I have done better? How should I have approached it? So the next time you're in a similar situation, you can then go out and do the things that you want to do, right? But being negative about your photo, saying, oh, this is shit, or I'm a shit photographer, isn't facilitative at all in your photography. And if anything, it's going to be far more detrimental to your craft and to making you want to go out and take more photos and to get better. Because bring it all the way back round to the idea of the taste gap. We want to get into photography, we want to be better photographers because we are interested in photography, and we have a certain taste that has drawn us to wanting to take our own photos, right? And so when we don't have the skill set to take those photos, we then get annoyed, we get frustrated, we then start getting bogged down in the technical aspect rather than understanding that it is a process. And in all honesty, we're probably never going to quite get to the point where we are taking the photos that we want to be taking. We'll get close, but I think we'll always want to improve. And so, all of this ramble is to say, don't be negative about your photos. You may not have taken the best photo you ever took, and you may have missed the opportunity, but think about it critically. Think about how you can improve, and then next time you're in a similar situation, you'll be able to have the skill set and the knowledge to hopefully get closer to what you want to create. And that is an invaluable skill.